Well, the Buffs got completely stomped out at Minnesota this weekend, 49-7, and it was obviously inevitable considering the trajectory of this program. But don't you worry. Athletic Director Rick George has a statement. That's how you know we're serious about football in Boulder. We've got a statement. You're watching Right on Cue Buff Spot.
Running the option on first down. Hagan has it. He has room. He's got one man to beat. Now he pitches to Flanagan, and he may take it all the way. Flanagan's in for the touchdown. He needs 28 yards to get into 2,000. Here is the give to Salam. Salam to the outside. He's down to the 50. He's got 2,000. He's on his way. 20, 15, 10. Let's it go. He's got three people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught. Graham is out the football. And Graham has for the end zone. Greenberg, play action, walks one, got his man, it's Jeremy Rules. Nobody's going to catch him. Third down and 7. Blitz calling speed and trying to balls loose. Scooped up by Colorado and a big man running all the way.
Welcome in, welcome back. Thanks so much for checking us out. You are watching Right on Cue Buff Spot. I am your host, Tyson Quiller. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content with anyone you think might find it interesting. And as always, send me your feedback at RightOnQCS on Twitter, rightonqcs@gmail.com. We are starting to get things heated up around here because we've basically determined that we're supporting and fans of a program that says we're terrible, we know we're terrible, we know you know we're terrible, and we just ain't going to do anything about it. And so here is where we come to make our voices heard. I very much appreciate you guys watching, you guys spreading this out. I know there are a lot of you out there who feel exactly like me. We need to hold these people accountable, and that starts right here. Let's check out this Rick George statement. So let me get this up on the screen for you here. From the desk of Rick George, oh, so official. Dear Buffalo supporters, like all of you, I have been disappointed to watch our football team struggle this fall, most recently yesterday at Minnesota. I know that our coaches and our student athletes are capable of so much more, and that all of you deserve better results. Well, that's just cute. You're disappointed? We've been disappointed for 2 decades. We're pretty freaking beyond disappointed. Back to the letter, though. I want you to know that I hear you. I recognize and understand your disappointment and frustration and perhaps even anger. We have not yet come close to meeting our expectations this season, and we own that. I would hope so. I know that Coach Durrell, our coaching and support staff, and our student athletes are working hard to get us on track. And with conference play starting this Saturday, we hope we will all enjoy a home victory over UCLA. A home victory over UCLA on Saturday? What could possibly make you think this team is capable of that? Regardless of your feelings right now on Colorado football, I encourage you to continue to support our tremendous football student athletes who need your cheers, encouragement, and support now more than ever. Go Buffs, Rick George. Let me translate that for you. Like I said, we know we're terrible. We know you know we're terrible. But keep paying us. Keep that money rolling in here, okay? We don't want you to expect a winner around here. And don't hide behind the student athletes. We're angry at you, Rick George, you, Carl Durrell. How about a statement from the fans? Let's just start right here. The Buffs are not even competitive anymore. I mean, you could argue after week 1 that we were in it at halftime, 6-7. Then we just completely fell apart. You could maybe even say at Air Force after we went down 20-0, they showed some fight, pulling it back to 20-10. I mean, really that isn't even true. But this loss at Minnesota, just like the 30-0 loss at home to them last year, was a monumental failure. The opening drive, Minnesota marched right down the field with complete ease, 4 first downs in a row. Ibrahim run for 19 yards, Morgan pass for 13, Morgan pass for 15. I mean, you can't blame that on the offense. The defense just came right out of the gate and surrendered. Our offense, though, then, surrendered as quickly as they possibly could as well. On the first play of the opening drive for the Buffs offense, Deion Smith just completely whiffs on a backside block. JT Shrout gets sacked and fumbles. Minnesota recovers 2 plays later. Mo Ibrahim in for a touchdown, and we're down 14-0. Just 6 minutes into the game. That stuff is just awful. After going down 13-0 in the first quarter last week against Air Force, you go down 14-0 right away in the first quarter this week. I mean, you can't win or even be competitive like that. But if you thought the first quarter was bad, man, oh man, the floodgates opened up in the second quarter as Minnesota outscored the Buffs 21-0 with just 8 seconds left in the first half. Minnesota had 10 more points than CU had total yards. Look at that. And the Buffs had earned just 2 first downs on offense, and the defense had given up over 340 yards in the first half. That's a full 100 yards more than CU averages for an entire game. I mean, the Buffs defense just seemingly made no adjustments in the second half, and the offense was juggling back and forth between Shrout and Lewis at quarterback every other drive, just completely grasping at straws. Colorado's offense gained 226 yards in the game, but 136 of those yards came after we were already down 49-0 in the fourth quarter. I mean, our offensive line and defensive line got completely manhandled the whole game. This Chris Wilson defense gave up another 334 yards rushing on Saturday. Check this out. Through 3 games, they are averaging giving up 348 rushing yards per game. Now, yes, of course, that's the worst in the nation. But not only that, it is a full 100 yards per game more than any other team in the country has given up. And we got a new wrinkle here. Our punter, Ashton Logan, a Carl Durrell recruit, had 6 punts averaging just 37 yards per punt. That is so atrocious, it's hard to even describe. His first 3 punts of the game, 36, 38, and 34 yards, none of them landed inside of the red zone. So don't tell me he was like being strategic, trying to coffin corner kick. This team is just terrible in every phase of the game. I mean, the freshman quarterback, Owen McCown, he came in for the last drive. He looked every bit as good as Shrout or Lewis. I mean, why not start him next week against UCLA, since we clearly have no identity, no direction, or leadership at this point? Buff fans, it is time to start considering that we have a real possibility of going 0-12 this year. The margin of defeat is growing. Week 1 we lost by 25. Last week we lost by 31. And this past weekend we lost by 42 points. This is the first time in program history that the Buffs have lost their first 3 games all by 25 points or more. Now, we talked about slow starts. Well, in the second half this season, the Buffs have been outscored 66-14. Not good in any quarter. Through 3 games, Colorado is averaging just 10 points per game on offense. That is tied for second worst in all of college football. Look at this. Worse than UTEP, UMass, Akron, and Colorado State. Are you kidding me? Only New Mexico State has a worse offense in the country than this Buffs offense. Then how about the defense? They're the 5th worst in the country, giving up 42.7 points per game. That's worse than Florida International, Louisiana Tech, Louisiana Monroe, and of course, you guessed it, Colorado State as well. All of those terrible metrics, and the Buffs haven't even played a single ranked opponent. If that statement from the start of the episode is the best Rick George can do, then he needs to go as well. Let's not let him off the hook too easy now either. Rick George was hired as the University of Colorado athletic director on July 17th, 2013. So he can't take credit for the success of the track and field and cross-country program. Head coach Mark Whitmore was hired in 2012 by Mike Bone. He can't take credit for the basketball program's success. Tad Boyle was hired in 2010 by Mike Bone. He can't take credit or blame, I guess, for Colorado joining the Pac-12, because that move was made in 2010 under Mike Bone as well. So what is Rick George's legacy? Well, I mean, he didn't fire or let leave Boyle or Whitmore, so I guess that's something. Now, securing the funds and support for the Champion Center is certainly quite a feather in his cap. But when it comes to football, and don't fool yourself now, football is king. Mike McIntyre was already hired 6 months before Rick George was. McIntyre coached for 6 seasons, and the football team had an average record of 5-7 over that span. In 2017, Rick George signed a 5-year contract extension with Mike McIntyre. That was his first big move as athletic director. Less than 2 years later, he paid over $7 million in a buyout to fire McIntyre. So he can own that. Then he hired Mel Tucker, which was a real big get. And the program kind of looked like it was on its way back. But after a 5-7 2019 season, Mel Tucker fled to Michigan State. At Colorado, Tucker was being paid about $2.4 million. Michigan State offered him $5 million. And Rick George was unwilling to match that. So yes, George can own that one too. Then, under Rick George's watch, while 75% of the rest of college football played basically a full season, Colorado played just 6 games in 2020. His limp, flaccid deferral to the Pac-12, oh, they won't let us play, what can we do? So pathetic. And let's just be clear here. The Pac-12 and Larry Scott didn't lead anything either. The conference desperately wanted to cancel the season, but they were too cowardly to make that decision on their own. They waited until after Kevin Warren and the Big Ten announced they were canceling to announce it themselves. Rick George can absolutely own that as well. Now, I will give him a little bit of credit. When Arizona State and USC canceled on us that season, he did go out and find a game for the team to play against San Diego State. But I mean, how do you justify those decisions at this point? When the SEC, ACC, Big 12, Conference USA, MAC, and Sun Belt all basically played full schedules and no one died or became seriously ill from COVID. That cost Larry Scott his job. And that brings us to our current quagmire with Karl Dorrell. The freaking Denver Post, thinking they're being edgy, saying, oh, well, if Karl Dorrell doesn't start Owen McCowan next week, then, he needs to be fired. Bro, he should have been fired already. The players and likely many of the coaches have given up on him at this point, and with Arizona State firing Herm Edwards, there's no longer any excuse. And I don't want to see any more of this crap either. Do y'all have $8.7 million to fire him right now? No? Okay, then please don't come with the pitchforks and torches yet. Arizona State just bought out Herm Edwards for about the same amount, $9.8 million. CU has an over $2 billion endowment, over $3 billion in assets, billion with a B, both of those. The football program brings in over $70 million every year, and we already paid out a couple years ago Mike McIntyre for $7 million. And in case you have forgotten, Michigan State paid CU $3 million to buy out Mel Tucker. We have the money. This is a weak, pathetic, and flaccid argument. Now, don't you fall for the same trick again as a fan. Okay, we were played after week 1. That loss to TCU, and the story was, oh, well, wait. If we had just played JT Shroud, well, we'll magically be so much better. That is the same BS that the Denver Post is peddling right here. The QBs are all bad because the coaches did nothing to improve the quarterback room in the last 14 months. It's really as simple as that. It's not that Dorrell isn't playing the right guy. They're all not the right guy. Now, I'm not willing to call for Rick George to be fired just yet, but when he makes comments that make it clear he's unwilling to participate fully in NIL, conference realignment, and the transfer portal, I am very concerned about the direction of this program. A statement is simply not good enough. Rick George, you owe the fans more than that. We deserve action. Now, the Buffs host UCLA at Folsom Field on Saturday at noon. This game will be televised on the Pac-12 network, so, at least we won't have a national audience for this week's beatdown. Now, the stadium was packed for the last home game. 47,868 fans was the attendance. But hey, man, I got to be honest with you. I will not be at this game. I cannot continue to support this program in that way. My childhood team, a team I have rooted for and supported for 30 years, I can't continue to go watch them just surrender right out of the gate, fall on their face, and just get pummeled for 3 hours. I got better things to do with my time. Now, with that being said, if you're going to the game, no judgment from me. I get it. It's a tough decision to make, and I can guarantee you I'll be watching it on TV, but it's just so bad that it hurts. So I'll leave you with some statistical comps to close out this episode. We have the worst rushing defense in the nation, and they go for 211 rushing yards per game. They score 44 points per game. Our defense gives up 43. We have the 8th worst passing offense in the country. Their defense gives up under 200 yards passing per game. UCLA is favored in Boulder by 21.5 points on the road. There is not a single team in America that is a bigger road favorite than UCLA is this weekend. The next closest is Utah at Arizona State, who just fired their head coach, and they're only favored by 14.5 points. Brother, I don't know what to tell you. This is looking like another 40-7 drubbing. The following teams are all 3-0. Kansas, Duke, Syracuse, Indiana, Rutgers, and Washington State. These programs have all been terrible for longer than the Buffs, and yet they're all heading into Week 4, 3-0, and we can't stay within 25 points of 3 unranked teams. Colorado brought in over $10 million more in football revenue last year than every one of these schools. I mean, we had double the revenue of Duke and Rutgers. Listen, this can be changed. We can get this CU Buffs program back on the right track. If they can do it at Kansas and Duke, we can sure do it here. But you have to be committed to making it happen. And weak, limp-wristed arguments about whether we can pay Darrell's buyout or not is for sure a way to condemn us to another decade of oblivion. Listen, I'm trying to stay positive, guys. Okay, we just did the coach's canvas for the future, trying to think positively. We did our pitch for how great Boulder is and CU and the storied heritage of this program, okay? But man, the weak, limp, pathetic level of leadership at this program is just cutting me to my core. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I missed something. Send me your feedback at RightOnQCS on Twitter, rightonqcs@gmail.com. Thanks again for checking us out. Send me your feedback. As always, like, subscribe, share, and you have been watching Right on Cue Buff Spot. I am Tyson Quiller. As always, go Buffs.
Running the option on first down. Hagan has it. He has room. He's got one man to beat. Now he pitches to Flanagan, and he may take it all the way. Flanagan's in for the touchdown. He needs 28 yards to get him to 2,000. Here is the give to Salam. Salam to the outside. He's down to the 50. He's got 2,000. He's on his way. 20, 15, 10. Let's it go. He's got 3 people down there. The ball's up.